What up? My name is Badwolf. Yeah, this is true. And bringing you an NGO is what I'm going to do. Hardcore. Yeah, I can never. Oh, sorry. What's up, guys? It is the bad motherfucking wolf in the house. Watch your mouth. About to get down. Tell you what it's all about. Oh, you want to see me? All right. My bad. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. I just bought 20 cases of baby oil. Now, mind you, I'm just teasing out there, all right? Um, but to all the people out there, no matter what they're doing, I just want to take this moment to say that I feel for what you're going through, what you've gone through. And if you guys need help, reach out to somebody, anybody, and get the proper authorities involved. Do not let somebody get away with hurting you or taking away your freedoms, your rights, and your voices. In all seriousness, um, so for those people, prayers and positive energy, you know, for your scenarios. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program. So, as always, guys, you can check me out on my other YouTube channel, which is the Bad Wolf Media channel. You can go to my website is jamesclovett.com, blacksite32.com, or Bad Wolf Unincorporated.com. All right. Or on my TikTok channel at symbol James C. Lovett or Bad Wolf. You'll find me on there. Ain't too far or hard to find. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you guys once again for support. We are nearly at 100,000 subscribers. This is monumental, and I definitely appreciate it. So thank you, sincerely thank you. So what is this particular video about? This particular video is going to be about NGOs. What is an NGO? In my NGO, oh, well, it's supposed to be GTO for those people who are old enough to know what that is. But let's jump into it. And as always, guys, thank you. And I hope that each one of you guys are taking care of yourselves. So I'm going to let my lovely assistant read what an NGO is, and I'm going to provide commentary. So sit back, relax, and unbutton your pants a little bit. Wait, well, Diddy might be around. Oh, he's locked up. Never mind. You guys are safe. Go ahead. You can unbutton a little bit, get some popcorn, some peanuts. I said peanuts, not and get a drink, and let's get going. In all seriousness, well, we have a little fun here. It's never all seriousness. How's your favorite non-belligerent, non-combatant? Let's get going. All right. So an NGO is a non-governmental organization or organizations in keyword modifier the United States. Okay. And you guys know me. If I don't see the word America, then I'm going to believe it's the corporation located in the District of Columbia, which is not one of the 50 stars on our American flag, the unfringed one. So this is with the United States, not without the United States. So let's take a look and listen to what they have to say, and I will provide some thoughts and commentary as we
The
go.
United States firmly believes that a robust civil society, own interests, independent of state control or government involvement is necessary for democracy to thrive.
So the government is saying, hey, we believe you guys do not need us nor the states to do business. That's what they just said. I mean, they're still ain't going to turn down the money if you guys don't know how to make your business or operate your business privately or utilize their services to do a non-governmental organization privately. They're good. They ain't going to turn you down. It's all good. It's all gravy, baby. Let's go.
Thrive. From the earliest days of U.S. history, civil society organizations have played a key role in protecting human rights and advancing human progress. Civil society is a source of all-encompassing ideas, promoting everything from transparency and free expression, reversing inequality, and rescuing our environment. Civil society in the United States encompasses a broad range of organizations that allow individuals to achieve their social, economic, and political aspirations by organizing themselves, unhindered, according to their own interests, needs, and priorities. We are committed to the idea that the public interest is served best when private citizens and members of civil society are able to choose freely the aims, organizations, and causes they support. Accordingly, U.S. regulations that impact civil society organizations are designed to facilitate and support the formation of non-governmental organizations, NGOs. U.S. regulations are designed, specifically, to avoid making judgments about the value or work of any given NGO. U.S. and international NGOs represent virtually every conceivable ideology, political cause, religion, social issue, and interest group. Some are deeply engaged in the political process, others are nonpartisan, operate far from the political process, and are involved only in social issues. The following overview explains how NGOs operate in the United States and how they are regulated. What is civil society? Civil society is the collection of social organizations formed voluntarily by citizens to advance shared goals or interests. This includes independent public policy research organizations, advocacy organizations, organizations that defend human rights and promote democracy, humanitarian organizations, private foundations and funds, charitable trusts, societies, associations, and nonprofit corporations. It does not include political parties. Areas of activity for NGOs in the United States. Approximately 1.5 million NGOs operate in the United States. These NGOs undertake a wide array of activities, including political advocacy on issues such as foreign policy, elections, the environment, healthcare, women's rights, economic development, and many other issues. They often develop and address new approaches to social and economic problems that governments cannot address alone. Many NGOs in the United States operate in fields that are not related to politics. These include volunteer organizations rooted in shared religious faith, labor unions, groups that help vulnerable people, such as the poor or disabled, and groups that seek to empower youth or marginalized populations.
Now, this does not mean that is the entire list. That does not mean that those are the only ones. Levitica National Government operates as a non-governmental organization. These are just the things that they want you guys to shoot for and what other people have done, but you can create your own nation as a NGO and do business. You can operate. You don't, matter of fact, you don't even need, the only reason why you even need the IRS to get an EIN or the government is to do business. But you can do business privately. But if you're going to do business commercial and you can need a bank account, though by law you don't need one, but they're going to ask you for one, that's when you need a EIN. But in general, you can do business at your home or wherever else privately. But to make it official, you should write up what you're doing and that you are private and open to private citizens, not the public. That's a different type of person or legal person. And you can do it. You don't need their permission. We've just never known that we didn't need their permission. And then when we go to ask about it, everybody's like, well, you better, if you're going to do it right, you better talk to the state, better talk to government. And if you guys are still going to your state to get EINs, well, I got a bridge to sell you and a lake in the middle of the desert that randomly appears for sale. Because if you're going to just throw your money away, well, it's not completely throwing it away, but you're throwing a lot of it away. You're basically saying, hey, state, I want to be underneath you and owe you money as long as I open my business just because I want to give you a gift when I could just have gone to the IRS website directly and gotten one and potentially only owe the federal government and not you. Yeah, let's just keep going.
Populations. Indeed, NGOs exist to represent virtually every cause imaginable.
There it is.
Their sources of finance.
Cause doesn't mean you have to have a humanitarian cause. You can do it cause I wanna, because I want to keep food on my table and my lights on. That's my cause.
Finance include donations from private individuals,
Oh, did you hear that? You can work with donations. And they recognize here private individuals, American or foreign. Go on.
American or foreign, private sector for-profit companies, philanthropic foundations, or grants from federal, state, or local government.
So you can actually get grants as an NGO.
Government. Sources of finance may also include foreign governments.
So you can petition foreign governments to finance your NGO. A grant is something that does not have to be paid back. What are you working on? Are you really actually trying to help the public or homeless or the needy or battered women and children or men's mental health?
There is no prohibition in U.S. law on foreign funding of NGOs, whether that foreign funding comes from governments or non-government sources. Legal framework for NGOs in the United States. Starting an NGO. In general, any group of individuals may come together to form an informal organization in order to jointly discuss ideas or common interests, and can do so without any government involvement or approval. If a group seeks particular legal benefits, such as an exemption from federal and state taxation, it may choose to formally incorporate and register as an NGO under the laws of any of the 50 U.S. states. 1. Individuals do not need to be U.S. citizens to create a new NGO. Registration requirements and forms of organizations vary from state to state, but are generally very simple, so that anyone can incorporate an NGO in just few days at the state level. The process typically involves.
Yes, it's funny how they're saying you can do it on the state level, but you can do it through the irs.gov. So I don't know if they're going to get to that part. So we see which way. Now, mind you, they're saying we recognize NGOs, and you can do it on the state level, but you can do it through you guys too. irs.gov.
Involves providing a short description of the organization, its mission, name, the address of an agent within the state, and paying a modest fee. Most states have a general incorporation statute that makes this process a routing matter, not subject to approval by the legislature or any other government official. This approach removes the risk that a government official might abuse his or her power in determining which organizations should be allowed to exist or not. In several states, certain NGOs formed for religious, educational, and other charitable purposes must also register with a state charity official charged with protecting charitable assets and regulating the charitable solicitation of funds from the public.
So
tax-exempt status.
Here, what they're saying is that if you're going to go after grants and certain things, then yes, you need to find out and register it with the state. If you're just going to do something like I'm doing privately, you're good. But if you're going to ask the state or certain other things from who? The public, then yes, you have to register so they know who you are and you're official. I have to pay a fee, which is BS, but it is what it is. Even though they're not supposed to charge you a fee for almost anything, because it's all supposed to be covered in the public fund. It's where your taxes go. So why are we paying taxes? If I'm paying you taxes, and you're double dipping on me already, but then you want me to pay to register for these things? My taxes are supposed to go to cover that. And if it's not my taxes, then it's the money you're getting from the government to put on these things for public and private persons like myself. Just saying. But enough of the politics. Let's continue, shall we?
Many NGOs in the United States are qualified as exempt from state and federal taxes. This legal status makes it easier for NGOs to operate as non-profit organizations because they do not have to pay tax on the income, funding they receive. If an NGO wants to receive exemption from income taxation from the U.S. federal government, the NGO applies to the Internal Revenue Service.
There it is.
There are many types of NGOs listed in the Internal Revenue Code that are eligible for tax-exempt status, and the type of benefits available depends on the type of NGO and the type of activities conducted. In general, NGOs organized exclusively for educational, religious, charitable, scientific testing for public safety, literary purposes, and certain sports that are non-profit and do not play a partisan political role, e.g., by supporting candidates for election or attempting to influence legislation, can apply to receive exemption from federal income taxation on all income related to these purposes.
Did you hear that? Non-political.
NGOs organized for political purposes receive limited tax exemptions only for income received from contributions solicited from the general public, membership dues, or fundraising events. State governments often use the same standards for applying state income tax laws. Organizations seeking exemption from state taxes generally must file applications for exemptions with the state tax authorities. Another feature of tax-exempt status is that contributions to some of these organizations may be tax-deductible for the donor. This provides an important incentive for citizens and corporations to donate funds to these groups. It is important to note that the federal and state governments do not judge the value of an organization's specific activity or mission in determining that these organizations are eligible for tax-exempt status. The U.S. government, generally, does not seek to influence an organization's mission, determine how an NGO is structured, approve who runs it or serves on its board, or direct its financial management. Instead, U.S. law generally regulates organizations by requiring regular public disclosure, through filing of information returns with the government, of an organization's funding, activities, and leadership. The regulations do not allow government officials to revoke permission to operate or tax-exempt status based on judgments about the merits of an organization's mission, activities, budget, or leadership. Freedom of expression and association in the United States. There is generally very little restriction on the freedoms of expression and association of NGOs under U.S. law. Although NGOs engaged in political activities may not qualify for the most preferential tax-exempt status, the U.S. government does not prevent NGOs from undertaking advocacy for political issues or criticizing the government. The U.S. Constitution provides for robust protections for freedom of expression and leaves open space for debate that is necessary in democratic societies, including protecting ideas that offend, shock, or disturb. The United States has many laws and regulations on issues, including immigration and visas, campaign finance and lobbying, terrorism financing, and money laundering that may affect NGOs. However, these laws are applicable to everyone and to all organizations, not exclusively NGOs too. Foreign NGOs in the United States. The United States hosts many foreign NGOs that do important and valuable work in our country. Foreign NGOs can register in the U.S. by filing a simple form as a nonprofit entity. Some operate as nonpartisan foundations, while others are affiliated with foreign political parties and operate as think tanks and liaisons to U.S. organizations concerned with foreign policy. These foundations organize programs for their respective politicians when they come to the United States, and organize conferences, youth exchanges, and fellowships/scholarships. They also provide funding to and conduct joint projects with American NGOs. Funded entirely by foreign governments, these foreign party institutes do not have special restrictions on their activities in the United States, can conduct meetings and publish materials freely, and are not required to provide reports to other U.S. federal government agencies, provided they register and file tax returns according to the requirements described below. Regulation of foreign funding of NGOs and foreign NGOs. Foreign funding of U.S. NGOs. As a general matter, U.S. law imposes no limits or restrictions on the receipt of foreign funding by NGOs operating in the United States. Of course, laws that are generally applicable to all Americans may apply to NGOs, such as restrictions on receiving contributions from a terrorist organization. There are also restrictions on direct financial support of political candidates by foreign individuals. Foreign NGOs operating in the United States. Before foreign organizations are able to conduct activities in any particular U.S. state, they must apply for a license to conduct business in that state. This process is similar to the incorporation process for U.S. NGOs described above. Like domestic NGOs, foreign organizations can apply to the Internal Revenue Service for recognition as charitable or social welfare organizations under the Internal Revenue Code. Although such organizations are exempt from paying taxes on their income, contributions to foreign organizations are not tax-deductible, in the absence of a special treaty providing otherwise with the country of the NGO's origin. The Foreign Agents Registration Act, 22 U.S.C. Section 611 etc. FARA. FARA is a disclosure statute which requires persons in the United States who are acting as agents of foreign principals and engaged in certain specified activities to make periodic public disclosure of their relationship with the foreign principal, as well as disclosure of activities, receipts, and disbursements in support of those activities.
Now, where have we heard Foreign Agents Registration Act? We have heard that the judges and public officers have to have a FARA, F-A-R-A, on record. Now, what's interesting as conjecture here, if you will, is that they are then all operating as foreign agents. And in their paperwork, they're supposed to have a FARA on file. Just thought it was interesting that they brought it up here, or whatever their reasons are.
Activities. The general purpose of the Act is to ensure that the American public and its lawmakers know the source of certain information intended to sway U.S. public opinion, policy, and laws, thereby facilitating informed evaluation of that information by the government and the American people. The Act requires any person or organization, U.S. or foreign, that is an agent of a foreign principal, to register with the Department of Justice if engaged in the U.S. in certain defined activities, and to disclose the foreign principal for which the agent works, the activities conducted, as well as receipts and disbursements in support of those activities. Foreign principals can include governments, political parties, a person or organization outside the United States, except U.S. citizens, and any entity organized under the laws of a foreign country or having its principal place of business in a foreign country. An agent of a foreign principal is any person who acts within the United States as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreign principal or of a person, any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized in whole or in major part by a foreign principal, and who engages in certain political or quasi-political activities. FARA covers all persons, including individuals, corporations, and associations, but provides a number of exemptions from registration, including for persons whose activities are in furtherance of bona fide religious, scholastic, academic, or scientific pursuits or of the fine arts. FARA also exempts from registration certain other private and non-political activities, such as certain solicitations of funds for medical aid, or for food and clothing to relieve human suffering, and exempts from registration persons accredited to international organizations who have notified the Department of State in accordance with the provisions of the International Organizations Immunities Act. Additional exemptions from registration are provided for diplomats and officials of foreign governments and their staffs properly recognized by the U.S. Department of State, persons whose activities are of a purely commercial nature, lawyers engaged in legal representation of foreign principals in the courts or similar type proceeding that does not involve influencing U.S. domestic or foreign policy, and those registered under the Lobbying Disclosure Act, 2 U.S.C. Section 1601. etc. Some governments have erroneously asserted that FARA restricts political freedoms in the United States. On the contrary, FARA does not inhibit freedom of expression, does not regulate the content of information disseminated, does not place any limitations on the agent's lobbying or publication of information or advocacy materials, and is neutral in its treatment of all countries. With regard to foreign funding, FARA imposes no limits or restrictions on the receipt of foreign funding by non-governmental organizations operating in the United States, nor does it impose a tax. The registration requirements under FARA are not tied to foreign government funding. Rather, registration is required for those conducting certain activities at the request of or under the direction or control of a foreign principal, solely for the purpose of disclosure. Additional information can be found on the FARA website located at http://www.fara.gov. NGO relations on the local and international levels. Once an NGO has registered, according to the requirements summarized earlier, the U.S. government does not interfere with how the NGO accomplishes its purposes. NGOs are free to recruit participants for their organizations as they wish, and need not provide notification to any government agency about its membership, activities, or outreach. Like other U.S. organizations and companies, U.S. NGOs must refrain from working with governments or individuals under U.S. sanctions, as well as with groups designated as foreign terrorist organizations, but otherwise, they are free to collaborate with foreign NGOs or foreign governments to achieve their purposes. There are no regulations that restrict U.S. NGOs from attending conferences abroad, finding donors overseas, or performing work internationally. 1. Not all NGOs in the United States are incorporated. It is remarkably easy to form a charitable entity in the United States. A person can create a charitable trust simply by executing and delivering a deed, contract, or other instrument conveying the trust property to another person, or even to herself, in trust for the charitable purpose. No government approval is required to form the trust beyond the standard requirements for signing a contract or deed conveying property. However, many U.S. states require all NGOs formed for religious, educational, or other charitable purposes to register with a state charity official, particularly if it will be soliciting funds from the public. 2. Certain NGOs, charitable 501(c)(3) organizations in particular, may be subject to some operating restrictions, including IRS rules prohibiting self-dealing, transactions with organization insiders, and excessive compensation, limiting lobbying and political activities, requiring minimum distributions for activities, and restricting certain kinds of commercial or investment activities. In addition, state laws may impose governance restrictions, such as a minimum number governing body members or limits on the number of governing body members that may be compensated. Tags: Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor Democracy Human Rights and Democracy Labor Non-Governmental Organization. White House. USA.gov. Office of the Inspector General.
All right, all right, all right. That is it. That is it. That is it. So, Now you guys have known about something you didn't know before, an NGO, non-governmental organization. You have the right to do things privately, depending how you set one up. You can get funding, you can get grants, you can operate your business here with an EIN or without one. Essentially, it's creating your micro nation or your group or your own government or your whatever it is you want to call it. If you do want to do humanitarian things and get financed and paid for it, you're going to want to then research NGOs. In my NGO, okay, in my GTO, it's a car. Okay, for those people who don't know. But that's it. If you guys want more information, do your research. I will be honest, as of yet, I did not go through their way and create and call it an NGO. But if you're doing a IRS EIN, if you guys have followed my videos on how to get a domestic tax exempt EIN video by James C Lovett, then at the part where they ask you, what type of organization are you creating? Non-governmental association, unincorporated association, or whatever else, let them know. That's it, guys. So hopefully you guys understand how fire this video is, depending on who you are and how you know to use it and what your overstanding of this information is. All right, guys, take care, stay warm, and I'll talk to you guys later. Wolf is out without a doubt, like a scout on a new route.